Thank you, Barbara. And I'll rise up. I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up. And I'll do it 1,000 times again. How many of you have ever felt like you have had to rise up 1,000 times? Again and again and again. I'll rise up high like the waves. I'll rise up in spite of the aches. I'll rise up and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And the last line in there is for you. I'll do it for you. Last week we had Mama Rose up here. And the end of her show, she says, I did it for you. And the whole point of her was, I did it for you. No, Mama Rose, you did it for yourself. And this song basically says, I'll do all of this for you. But I picture that person standing in the bathroom, in a mirror, after a shower, just saying, you know what? I don't care what's going on. I will do this again. I will get into my day today, and I will step out of this bathroom into my clothes and into my life, into my day again. And I will rise up and rise above anything that could possibly come my way. And if you go online and watch this song, how many of you have seen the video for this, the official video? I wasn't prepared for the video because it was a video of this couple laying in bed, and they wake up in the morning, and the woman gets up, and she's just looking out the window, and she turns, and he's in bed, and he says, I want to take you on a date today. And she smiles, and he smiles. He gives her that kind of look. And then you realize he is a quadriplegic. And she then gets him out of bed. She bathes him, gets him into a suit, puts him in his wheelchair. She then gets fully dressed in pearls and a beautiful dress, and then wheels him to a restaurant and feeds him a beautiful dinner and brings him home. And he says, thank you for letting me take you on a date. And I'm watching this video just because I wanted to listen to the song again and listen to the words, and I'm like sobbing, just like sobbing. I mean, I can't even read the lyrics because my eyes are just... And I thought to myself, how many of us, when faced with something like that, feel equal to rising above it and then being in that position, taking care of someone so profoundly for the rest of that person's life? Well, turn it back to ourselves. That's who we are to ourselves. Every single day, we get to take care of ourselves. And the Easter message is very much about that. You know, the story of Easter is about rising above adversity. It's resurrection. But the story of Easter is about salvation. The story of Passover, rising above adversity, right? Not salvation so much as freedom. So the Christians celebrate salvation and the Jews celebrate freedom. And the story of mankind, everyone, is about rising above adversity and finding truth. So this whole day is a celebration of truth being equal to salvation and freedom. You take it all and you realize that the minute you remember who you are, the truth of who you are, you get that truth, you are saved from all the crap that comes along, and you're free now to live at the highest expression of yourself. That's what the Easter message is really about. It's about finding the truth. Jesus did it, we are told. And what adversity. I mean, that man, what he went through last week. I mean, you can't help but drive through your neighborhood. I mean, Saddleback is on my corner now. And so every day this week, Saddleback was celebrating all the trials and tribulations of Jesus. So actually, I kind of went through it with them. Because as I'm driving by Saddleback, I'm like, oh, that's right, it's Holy Thursday. Oh, that's what happened that day. And then it came to Good Friday, and I drive by Saddleback on my way to work, and I was like, oh, no one's talking. It's 12 to 3. We're not supposed to speak between 12 and 3. That'll be hard. And then what happened at 3 o'clock? Oh, he died. And I literally saw it on my phone. It was my phone. When it said 3 o'clock, and I went, and he has passed. And I was like, who are you? So Saddleback really did get to me this week. But that's what, I grew up with that. How many of you grew up with that story? Right, so I grew up with that. It still has a profound effect on me when I think about what Jesus went through, the adversity. Is anybody here going through anything near like what we read about what Jesus went through? I don't want to underestimate you, but I don't think so. And yet, we do make all of that stuff in our life so difficult, so profoundly blocking our way. And so today, we get to rise above it. Last night, I went to my Seder. Al Welland wrote a profoundly brilliant piece last year called The New Thought Seder. And the group of us that went last year, almost all of us showed up again this year with a few extras. Jeannie Kingsford was there. And Al Welland, who's standing over there, wave your hand so they all know who I'm talking about. Al has spent his whole life running synagogues. So he is very steeped in what a Seder is all about. And the way he wrote this Seder in New Thought terms and brought all of what comes from the Jewish tradition into what we believe, I pretty much sat the night crying. I mean, I had tears in my eyes. Nobody noticed because everybody was busy talking and having fun. But every time if something was read, I was just choked up because we have such connection to all of these faiths. I remember once in North Hollywood when I did a Palm Sunday, and I talked about Palm Sunday. Last week, I didn't even remember that it was Palm Sunday, which is fine. So I was giving the talk on Palm Sunday, and this woman came up to me, and she said, just so you know, I am a Jew, and every time you mention Jesus, you stab me in the heart. And in my own cryptic way, I went, don't come next week, it's Easter. And so, which prompted us to have a discussion after that, because I said, here's the problem. I said, you still think you're Jewish instead of God. And if you remembered you were God, you'd realize you were Jewish and Christian and Buddhist and Muslim. You'd realize you were all of it. Right? And she smiled and she went, I never looked at it that way. I said, so will you be here next week? She goes, I'm going to give it some thought. And she was there on Easter Sunday. And I spoke me a lot of Jesus that day. And afterwards she said, that was so much easier to sit through realizing that I am part of all of that. I said, and by the way, Jesus was a Jew. So I loved last year when I found this child's definition of Easter. This is my 16th Easter to speak. And, after a while, you're like, what new thing can I say about Easter? But I actually have something this year. I do every year, because every year we grow, every year we evolve, and something else comes up. But I do want to read what I read last year. Oh, where's that tea? Didn't I put teas? Oh, yeah. I'm terrible at Easter egg hunts, too. So this is a little boy's explanation of Easter. Jesus found an egg behind a rock, and he took it to the river and dyed it. That was a little kid in Catholic school. That's apparently what they taught him at St. Bartholomew's. But I understand that. It's confusing to be told everything about Jesus and then go home and hunt eggs. I love what John Stewart said about that. He said this, he said, so a guy comes down to earth, he takes your sins, dies, and comes back 3 days later. You believe in him, you go to heaven forever. How do you get from that to hide the eggs? Did Jesus have a problem with eggs? Did he go like, when I come back, if I see eggs, the whole salvation thing is off? When I was a little Catholic schoolboy, I actually believed somehow that I had been taught that Jesus was resurrected as an Easter bunny. I did. I believed that Jesus came back as a bunny. And for years, I would see bunnies and I'd be like, Jesus. Jesus. It's true. When my mother passed away, there was a fly in our house that would not leave our house right after she died. Forever. Kevin knows this. I still see flies and I'm like, Mom? Really? Well, enough about me. Let's move on to what Ernest Holmes said about Easter. He said, Easter does not represent the dead. It does not represent that dead men live again, but that living man never dies. That's the message to take away from Easter, that living man never dies. He said, Jesus revealed himself to his followers after his resurrection to show them that death is but a passing to a sphere of higher life and action. The Christ triumphs over death and the grave, breaking through the tomb of human limitation into the dawn of eternal expansion. The Christ rises from the ashes of human hopes, pointing the way to a greater realization of life. And that is in the Science of Mind, page 369. I want to bring something up here. The Christ, not Jesus. The Christ. Christ stands for consciousness, a highest level of consciousness. That's what Christ consciousness is. You know when you're in it. You're in it all the time, but you know when you are conscious of it. You know when you're aware of it. You're thinking better. You're feeling better. You're loving better. You're being loved better. You're in better relationships. You're in better relationship even to the things that come up that you don't like because you're in Christ consciousness. Christ consciousness does not mean you suddenly skate through life with flowers and berries everywhere and nothing goes wrong. No, Christ consciousness is the very tool we use in order to navigate life from the highest level, no matter what. When I saw that Reverend Sandra had passed, and I had just spoken to her, maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, Reverend Sandra, when I spoke to her, I said, how's it going on the phone? And she said, I've had a little setback, but what's life without setbacks? She said, it's all going to be fine. Never did she let up that she had a setback that was as serious as it may have been, because to Sandra, it was not as serious as it had ever been. No, to Sandra, there's a setback. In my mind, I know the truth. And sometimes the truth means it is time for us to leave these bodies and move on. So that's what we come here today to remember. All this stuff. Reverend Joyce said it when she said, all this stuff. Oh, well, what if I don't get to Florida? What if I don't win the lottery? How many of you are still waiting to win the lottery? I hope one of you does, and I hope you tithe. So, you think I'm kidding? No. So, we're all still, expecting a lot of things, and yet the truth is we already are all of it. And if we just allow ourselves to remember who we are, everything else has a way of falling perfectly into place. So this year's Easter message is called Rise and Shine. I want to see what you put. Oh, beautiful. Rise and shine. So obviously the rise is rising up above all adversity. So 8 years ago, I had the pleasure of walking into my Easter service that year, having found out that I had stage 4 cancer, and I had to tell them on Easter Sunday. That's kind of why I said, you're depressing us. Because that week, I was like, how am I going to tell my congregation that I have stage 4 cancer? And today, I knew I was coming in to address Reverend Sandra. But I did it in the same way, with lightness, understanding the truth about resurrection, about rising above adversity. And what I did is I came in and I said, I met a man. And I told this whole story about this man who had come to me with cancer, and that I was hangnail cancer, same thing. And then when I got to, now don't feel bad, but I want to tell you, the man I met was myself. And everybody gasped, which is the thing I was avoiding. and we just moved on. That's what life was about back then. And I got to tell you something. For years now, it's been 8 years since I had cancer. And, I always say stage 4 cancer because it's more dramatic. Because you know what stage 5 is. I'm channeling to Esther and Jerry. I just hope when I make my transition, someone channels me and writes a book in my name. Tiffany. Where's Tiffany? Tiffany, you'll do that, right? Okay, good. So here's the thing that I've come to realize. Cancer was easy. Cancer was easy. You know why cancer is easy? It is so frigging big that you spend all of your time focusing on it. That's easy. Cancer gave me a free ride. I was like, I have cancer. Don't even think to talk to me about that. I have cancer, can't be bothered, I'm busy healing over here. Can you not see me healing? Cancer was easy. It was all about me. Everyone was concerned about me, right, Kevin? And Kevin. But cancer was easy in that respect, and I don't mean please, I know many of us in this room have had that journey, and I don't mean to minimalize it, but I do in this way. Cancer is easy because I took my entire energy and focus and healed myself. You know what's hard? All the little crap that's stuck in there that you don't remember you have, that's running the show, that's creating lives that are asymmetrical, and that's not allowing you to live at your fullest. That's what's hard, right? Am I right? Give me an amen. That's what's difficult. We need to rise above all of that stuff. Because you know what happens when we don't rise above all of that stuff? Somewhere along the line, we create a big thing. Somewhere along the line, it all turns into something that you then have to focus on. And I think it's time to rise up above that paradigm of living. It is time for us to really understand what Jesus was teaching us. That I and the Father are one, that greater things you will do than even Jesus did. Jesus didn't have a cell phone, you do. Jesus didn't have a computer, you do. Jesus didn't have a lot of stuff that you have. So we have done greater things than he did. He was right. We're just taking it in a way that's keeping us down, keeping us less than. And I believe that message on that day, when Mary Magdalene pushed that rock away, I'll wait. I honestly believe, thank you, Jason. I honestly believe Mary Magdalene pushed the rock away. I think the apostles were way too depressed, sitting around crying, and Mary went up and went, oh my God. And she just pushed the rock away and said, there, he rose. Woman. So I honestly think we need to take that message, right? Am I right, Margaret? I honestly think we need to take that message that Jesus rose above all of this stuff and start getting in line with that. And and honestly, this is what it's really about. Look at what's going on in your life. Don't be afraid to look at that little stuff. Don't keep pushing it down, pushing it back, pretending it's not there. My word in mental muscle this time is begin. And I am loving that, because it's giving me the opportunity to begin everything fresh, as if I don't know what I'm about to say, as if I don't know what I think. I mean, that's a hard thing to do. The resurrection also says you are clear, you are free and clear. Everything's been washed away. Now, what can you know? I know nothing. Now, what can I know? Ernest Holmes also said this: it's time for us to begin to rise above our issues and shine in that place where we are always triumphant. Shine in that place where we are always triumphant. We need to roll away the rock and rise up. Deepak Chopra said this: the symbolic language of the crucifixion is the death of the old paradigm. The resurrection is a leap into a whole new way of thinking. So what I want to say today is, we need to rise up past this understanding of creating obstacles for ourselves to rise up against. And to rise up to a place, as Joyce was talking about, where you see everything from a different paradigm. Where you see everything from the truth. Because if truth equals salvation and freedom, then the minute you remember who you are, the minute you start identifying God as you and every person on this planet, the minute you start understanding oneness from a place of power and depth and wisdom and knowing, the minute you do that, the minute that truth comes into play, you will be equal to salvation, which means nothing more than you are saved from all that stuff out there and freedom to now create whatever you want to create. If Jesus rose from the dead to start anew, to start again, to begin again, to get rid of all the pain, all the suffering. How many of you would like to get rid of all the pain and all the suffering? All of us. So today we create a new paradigm. Today we are a new people on a new planet looking at everything with new eyes, and we allow that truth, that new beginning, we allow the depth of our being to rise up inside of us, take us to the highest level we could, which is called Christ consciousness, and we start living from here today. Namaste.